What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Moving out west. So Nikola Jokic polishing up the jumper, getting ready for the postseason. Jamal Murray obviously has been playing at an all-star level. The Nuggets have lost just twice since the All-Star break, and both of those losses involved a last-second shot that either sent it to OT or ended the game. They have had multiple, probably about a half dozen, just ridiculous half-court ass-kicking sessions that they've put on at the end of games to put things away. Denver just seems like a freight train to me. And so I'm going to present this question to you guys like this, and I'll start with you, Carson. Would you take Denver or the field at this point to win the NBA title?
It's a really good question. I would probably take Denver, but I don't think there's a big gap between them and Boston. I'm very confident that one of those two teams is going to win the title. I think that Boston is the most overwhelmingly talented. And I think that as a basketball team, they have the highest ceiling with the level that Jaylen Brown has been playing at as of late. If you get Kristaps Porzingis consistently knocking down his shots from the perimeter, which he didn't really do when they played Denver, and he was getting good looks there, just the overall athleticism that they have, the combination of perimeter defense and interior defense, the fact that they're a good rebounding team. They have two star shot creators. Jaylen's been balling. Jason's having a career season. They can go on these flame-throwing runs from deep. They lead the league in three-point volume, and they're second in terms of their percentage there. So the ceiling that they have is incredibly high. I do still think that Denver is a bit more reliable, though, because their offensive brilliance is truly inevitable. They are never going to break down in terms of process. They are never going to experience the swings in terms of perimeter shot making that, although Boston's ceiling is very high, we saw the difference maker in their matchup. And Boston fans may say, oh, well, we had a just miserable shooting game from deep, but so did Denver. Denver made 4 threes in that game. They could not knock down a shot from the perimeter, and they have one advantage that nobody else in the league does, which is that offensive machine just keeps churning because of Nikola Jokic's interior dominance offensively, because of his ability to create quality shots in and around the paint for cutters, for Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot, Jamal Murray's mid-range shot making. Like, Denver is less susceptible to shot variance than anybody else in the NBA. They won 2 games in the finals last year where they made 5 3-pointers or fewer. Nobody else did that in the entirety of the postseason. Nobody else can survive off shooting nights like Denver. And by the way, they're a really good shooting team, but they don't need to be to win every single game. And I think that that's a huge advantage. I think they're a top 3 offense of this century. I mean, particularly in the clutch, the shot quality they can create with either a Nikola Jokic post-up. Obviously, I think he's the best post scorer on the planet and the best scorer, period, and he can get to any of those touch shots and make 65% of them no matter who's on him. But if you dig, he's going to create a good shot for a shooter. If you double from the paint, he and Aaron Gordon have maybe the best two-man chemistry that I've ever seen. And so there is an inevitability there. Whereas Jason Tatum, yes, has been on a really good pull-up shooting run, but you can see these stretches from Boston where the decision-making from Tatum and Brown isn't great, and they are susceptible to just down stretches in terms of perimeter shot making. And Denver's a really good defensive team, too. I think that obviously, particularly on the perimeter, they have some good athletes. They're not a team that is at all easy to like pinpoint mismatches with. I think about that a lot, where you see it in the Mavs game recently, for example, where Luka is like trying to hunt switches and go at Jamal Murray late in that game. And it's still not super easy. Like, Jamal's still a 6'4", compact, pretty athletic guard. So I think they're underrated defensively, and they're the best offense in the league, the offense that I trust the most by a good bit. But I just can't act like they are head and shoulders above Boston, because I know what Boston is capable of. Boston has the most talented starting 5 that we've seen, certainly since the peak Golden State Warriors. I think this is a team that in most post-Warriors years, like, would be better than the champion. I'm interested in your guys' thoughts on that, because I think Denver is the strongest champion we've seen since those Warriors. I think if you dropped this Celtics team against the 2019 field Well, Toronto, just because Golden State was hurt that year. The 2020 Lakers are tough, but the 2021 Bucks, 2022 Warriors, I think this Boston team is so overwhelmingly talented that I would take them against most of those teams. And I think that that's a testament to how strong both these teams are. I think that we are headed on kind of a collision course for one of the best finals of this century. I view both these teams very, very highly.
I'm taking Denver, and I agree with you. I think it's going to be a battle of the Titans. If the Celtics are the Avengers, Jokic is Thanos. And
nice.
To me, it comes down to one thing. Jason made I can't remember what take you made it about Jason. You were talking about how star players, their teams assume the identity of their star player. And I really think that that's what it comes down to with both of these teams. The Celtics leader is Jason Tatum, and Tatum is susceptible to bad pull-up shooting runs, settling for a lot of threes. And so that's what his team does a lot. I'm not putting that all on Jason Tatum's shoulders, but by and large, they have assumed the identity of Jason Tatum. And there is no team more in the NBA that I think has assumed the identity of their leader than the Denver Nuggets. Jokic's impact, his unselfishness not only creates open looks and open opportunities for his teammates, but it makes his teammates more unselfish. Like, watch a Nuggets game, and it will blow you away when you're watching Aaron Gordon kick it to MPJ, and MPJ will swing it, and it's beautiful basketball. Carson, you talk about them being one of the greatest offenses of this century. It's the most beautiful basketball. It's like the 2000s and 2010 Spurs. It's like the 2010s Warriors. The ball movement is unreal, and that's what it comes down to me. Like, the entirety of the Nuggets team has assumed part of Jokic's identity is we're going to play unselfish, beautiful basketball. We're going to make that extra pass, and it's going to kill you. It's part in why the Nuggets are so infallible when it comes to clutch offense, because they are looking for that extra pass, because they are looking to play make for their team is just so unselfish because their leader is. And that's the beautiful thing about the Nuggets, and that's why I can't pick against them. I do think the Celtics are probably the most talented team we've seen since the Warriors, even with like the 2020 Lakers are probably the closest, but there's a depth advantage that the Celtics have that the Lakers don't have when you're comparing those teams apples to apples. So I don't want to undersell Boston, but what it comes down to me is the fact that both of these teams, buy into their identity, their culture, their leader. I trust Denver's culture and their leader more, and I think it is permeated to the rest of the roster in a way that you seldom see with teams, man. Like, their unselfishness is unreal. And that's why that's ultimately why I buy in and can't bet against Denver. Also, the fact, like you mentioned, Carson, you got MPJ just banging nails on contested threes. Every one of their players has something that they can kill you with, man. If it's an Aaron Gordon dunker spot lob, if it's coming. I do think the Nuggets are inevitable, and I would really be surprised if they didn't win the title.
To be clear, I have Denver as my championship favorite, and I'm more confident in them now than I was even to start the season. I think they're just better than they were last year. I think they have more well-defined roles and more well-defined processes on both ends of the floor, even than Boston does, which I think allows them to kind of reach their ceiling more frequently than Boston does, even though I agree Boston's ceiling is higher. Carson, I thought the bit you did on their lack of reliance on variance was super, super interesting. That stat about the 5 made threes in the finals, that's absolutely crazy. And I mean, I think that reflected in the Celtics games. They got outshot by Boston in both games on jump shots in terms of jump shot efficiency. And both of those teams are good jump shooting teams. They're both top 10 jump shooting teams in the league by point per shot efficiency. And so, like, their ability to weather that kind of storm. And again, then I think like one of the big ones too is just Denver knows exactly like their hierarchy in big situations. Boston can get a little bit finicky on that end, and they don't really know what they want to run, which I think is part of the reason why they get inconsistent. That said, winning 4 championship rounds is really, really hard. And even though I would pick Denver over the field in the Western Conference, I think once you throw in that Boston variable, I think that it's a lot to say Denver winning over anybody else as an option. And so even though I'm more confident than Denver or in Denver than I have been at all this season, I still think like there's a less than 50% chance that they win just because of all of the variables that go into it. I will pick them in every series. I will pick them against Boston if they get to the finals. I agree with you, Carson. I think it's going to be an all-time great series. That said, I think there's obviously like just a ton of variance in the NBA. I mean, even just looking back to the simple fact that we haven't had a repeat conference finalist in the last 5 years just goes to show you the stuff that you can run into in a postseason series. Not to mention the injury risk along the way. To like, there's just always a chance that maybe Jamal Murray will go down or Michael Porter Jr. will go down before you get there. And obviously, as we know, Denver synergy depends so much on all 5 of those guys being healthy. And so, yeah, I think Denver fans should feel very confident. But if I was, forced to pick Denver or the field, I'd pick the field just because I think the field is all, unless you're picking like Tiger Woods in his prime to win a major. Fair. Like it's hard to go against the field in these sorts of situations.